Ach, sind wir schon da?
Wir sind schon da.
Herzlich willkommen. Moin, moin. Rocket Beans V live von der Gamescom aus Cologne. Und bei uns ist jetzt ein ganz besonderer Gast. Er ist Entwickler. Er kommt aus Montreal. Er arbeitet für Square Enix und an Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Herzlich willkommen, Olivier. Hi. Nice
Hello.
to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate this.
Yes.
Thanks for having you here, for being here.
Yeah, you brought us the second title of your rebooted franchise, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. What is happening in the world?
In the world, so the setup of this game is we're 2 years after the big events of Human Revolution, where all the augmented people were kind of triggered and hacked into this big frenzy, and this was obviously a big problem. Millions of people died from this incident, and we're 2 years later back with Adam Jensen in a world where there's a lot of segregation, and people now are scared of augmented people, right? So they're being pushed into ghettos, questioned, and that's kind of the setting where we pick things up with the narrative driver of the game, is that kind of segregation. Adam is back, and he really wants to understand what happened, and he wants to get deeper into conspiracy and kind of take the fight into his own hands this time.
So, are there any enhanced abilities that we can expect from Adam?
For sure. One of the things that we wanted to do is we thought that in the previous game the stealth aspect was really solid, and obviously this is back, but with this one we invested a lot into the combat pillar. So a lot of new augmentations are related to the combat aspect. So something really cool that we have is Adam now has kind of a mechanical arm that he can use very fluidly through combat. So for example, in the first game, Human Revolution, he was using his nanoblades during takedowns. Now it's actually a projectile, and you can use it as you're doing your weapon play. Also, if you upgrade it, you can charge it up and use it kind of as a grenade. So that's an example of something we added to kind of boost the combat offer of the game.
And how much preparation did you take on getting more in this augmented combat, and also in all the techniques which are now available in your game? Are there similarities?
Yeah, I mean, Human Revolution, there's a lot of mechanics that work really well for example, kind of the cover system, where you go from first person to third person to kind of look at your environment. This is back, but we kind of improved it. Now you can move fluidly from cover to cover, move forward. So some things like that were working well, but we kind of improved upon them. But again, just adding new augmentations, and also something that we added is kind of the choice and consequence aspect of the game. Now when you play through the whole game, you make different choices, and as you move forward in the story, you get to the end game options are available to the player, kind of relate to all the different choices and decisions that you made as you were playing through the whole thing. So I think this is very exciting that the player gets to have that much agency on what's actually happening at the end.
So how widespread is the system of choices? Like if you take the path to the left, how far can it take you, or how narrow is it?
Well, one of the really great things about a Deus Ex game is kind of that open-ended level design aspect. So when you get into an area, it's not just follow the corridor. There's always kind of multiple ways that you can approach a problem. There's sometimes secret ways that if you really are careful looking at through the environment, you can find and kind of approach the problems in different ways. So that kind of, we give a lot of choice to the player. The player can be very creative into how he uses all the different systems and how he explores the environment. So with this game, it's great because we're on new-gen consoles, and with more memory comes kind of bigger areas and more verticality and more ways to kind of use all those mechanics, and we're working really hard to make sure that it translates into a really fun gameplay for the players.
But is it possible to be really the bad guy?
I mean, you can make some choices that can be kind of questionable a little bit, but Adam Jensen is Adam Jensen. You're not going to turn him into an evil person. He's still who he is. But the way you can talk to people sometimes, some player choices, you can be, again, questionable how you deal with situations. And a lot of our players, they love to approach combat or even stealth situations. They don't want to kill anyone. And because the characters are really strong and you want to be careful what you do. So people can be a killing machine, but a lot of our players, they kind of try to avoid that because they get that the situations are a bit more complicated than good versus evil.
Yeah, you're talking about not killing anybody, but is there something like a letter of pardon that you've included, like that you can use it one time? Because sometimes you try to play the game without killing anybody, and then there's a mistake. Like you put someone to sleep, and he falls over down like 10 meters down, and he's dead. And people say you killed him, but that's not murder. That's an accident. But you still don't get the achievement for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you try to be careful not to kill anyone, but you know, accidents could happen in these intense situations. But I think for us, what's important, if the intention of the player is to not kill anyone, we want to give them the tools to succeed. So obviously the stealth aspect is important if you want to avoid killing anyone, but if you get detected in the tough situations, we have some tools for the players to get out of trouble without killing anyone. So I was talking about the new augmentations and the gun arm. One of the options for the player is there's what we call the PEPS gun, which is basically you shoot a huge blast of energy, and this pushes the enemies away. It doesn't kill them. So you can kind of get out of the situation, find a vent.
I know, but what is if he falls over? You know? He falls over, like there's there's a gap, 10-meter gap, and he falls down on solid concrete, and then he's dead. You know, he's not gonna go home again ever. His family is gonna be so. But you're not a murderer. It was the blast. You tried to save his life.
You have that on your conscience, man.
Why can't you make like
carry that?
Yeah. what I want is like a sequence where you go to court, where you can like say, was it a murder or was it an accident? And if the judge says it's an accident, then you can play on with no killing on your conscience.
We don't have the court and judge feature in the game, and I can't promise it for this one. But you know what? We can take notes for maybe the future.
Please do that. So, did you work together a lot with scientists, with people who like think about the future? How is it going to be? What are the techniques that are available today? What kind of augmentations are ahead? Do you talk to scientists to create a realistic world?
In the Human Revolution, our narrative team had some conversations with kind of biochemists and people in that field to, you know, have some credibility into what we're doing, and we continue to this day, like always look at what's happening in the real world, what's our relationship with technology, what's happening with prosthetic limbs, and where it's heading. And sometimes we find things are pretty surprising, and we post a lot of things on our Facebook page of their sex and tweet a lot about this, and you can find like a lot of advances in the medical fields that it's kind of eerie how it kind of goes into the way that we're predicting. Obviously, we're a cyberpunk game, so we kind of go extreme with it, but we try to keep our world credible, and everything that you look and you find, we try to kind of tell a story behind it and put some form of narrative and real-world justification. This is a near-future setting, so it's not complete kind of sci-fi. So we want players to feel kind of grounded into something they know, but it feels a little bit alien at the same time since it's near future. So it's a big challenge, but I mean, our team is having a lot of fun with this, and we have a lot of experience working from Human Revolution, bring to this one, and trying to find new ways to bring this forward.
Are you afraid of a future like this shown in Deus Ex? Or is it something you want to warn? Give away a little warning?
I mean, these are big questions. Our relationship with technology. I was talking with a colleague of mine today. Our relationship with our smartphones today it's crazy. Like we're always looking at these things, the way we communicate with other people, our friends, and how it widens. So you know, it changes our lives. So it's exciting, and there's a lot of possibilities. But at the same time, you know, sometimes it kind of forces us to be in our little shells and kind of miss out what's happening around us. And so, you know, these are important themes. It's really fun to be working on a game and where we can kind of express our ideas about all these themes and bring forward some of the problems that could happen.
And where there's some, I would say, some dreams which could never be realized in this game. Some, I don't know, some technical gimmicks you dreamed of and said, oh man, this would be cool in our new game. But, oh man, the technique is not that far to put it inside.
You mean in terms of the feasibility of doing it, or if it would fit in our world?
Both.
Okay. In terms of feasibility, as I'm the producer of the game, so sometimes I'm kind of the guy with bad news in the room. Like, hey, we can't do this. We don't have time and budget, and so we have to make choices. We have to be careful that not to work on too many things at the same time and have nothing that's good. So yes, we have to make choices. Sometimes we have really good ideas that we kind of have to put on the side to focus on what works. So even from this game compared to Human Revolution, some of the ideas I would kind of toss aside because of time and budget constraints, that we kind of went with it and implemented in this one. So this always happens in game development. In terms of how it fits in the world setting, we try to stay credible. So sometimes we have ideas, or even like a approach how artistically it's rendered, but we're like, this is way too sci-fi. We can't go there. It doesn't fit into what we're trying to build. So we have those discussions for sure.
Yeah, that's, for me, it's one of the most interesting things in Deus Ex. It's not only the gameplay, which is great for what it wants to be. It's like you can have an action shooter or you can have a stealth game, but to explore the world. And as we are seeing some video sequence of Mankind Divided, this is exactly what happens. You're strolling through the world and you're seeing, okay, this is something that exists in our world, but it's slightly different. And you can see how the people react, how they look, how they communicate, how they behave, and just to observe, what's happening. I think this is one of the most interesting things.
Absolutely, this is a kind of core pillar of the way we develop games. If you look at, this is a train station in Prague, and you see the policeman, how his attire is futuristic, but still you understand what he's wearing. Yeah. So this is a good example, and you have very high technology panels and train, but you're still in Prague, so you have this contrast. But that visual storytelling is super important for us. When you enter a room, the room tells you a story, right? So we handcraft everything. So this room here tells a big story. Let's say nobody's here. You enter, you're like, okay, well, interviews are happening, and the guys are, they're a big fan of rock music, and it's kind of a mess. They're working hard, and so you understand what's happening. And that's the same thing in our world. You enter a room and you have to understand something happened there. It's not just like a generic apartment. So this takes a lot of craft and care, and it's really fun to use this sort of content.
And I guess you are one of the most or hardest working guys on the project. You have to tell everybody what he has to do. Do you find the time to play for yourself?
The whole team is really committed to this thing, I have to say. When we look at it, it's difficult to play it. We know the systems, we know how the level design was built, we always see the problems everywhere. So yes, sometimes we can experience a little nugget of, well, this is cool and we want to reproduce it. But what we love to do is have gamers come in our studio. We have a playtest studio, and we observe them to play a lot. And sometimes we learn things that we didn't expect, how they use the different gameplay features. And that's really rewarding for us when kind of all the things come together and the players can be creative how they play. For us, it's difficult to have that sort of perspective. But yeah, when our levels are coming together or features start to work, it's really rewarding to be working on the title. We have an amazing team, a lot of people coming back from Human Revolution, our core creative team, a lot of people on the production team as well. So they got better at building a Deus Ex games. For example, our level designers, they really understand what it takes to have this intricate level design. They made it better now. So we look at our results a lot. We're very honest and critical of our own work, and when it starts to feel good, it's super rewarding.
So is it a challenge to create characters that are from a different world? We always try to identify with someone, especially if you're playing a character like Adam Jensen, try to identify with them. But those guys are living in a total different world. It's a different regime. It's a different life they live. Is it more a challenge for you guys to create a character that people can identify with?
Creating believable characters in any work of fiction is always challenging. You have to we don't want to make them sort of good or evil. We try to make our characters kind of in the gray area, so that's always a challenge. But you know, this is not really sci-fi. This is near future, so we can kind of relate to what these people could be living, and we try to make kind of personal stories out of what's happening. So the whole thing with the segregation of augmented people, this is obviously, as Adam Jensen, you get to see kind of the high conspiracy explore this, but when you're kind of boots on the ground and walking around Prague and the city and doing side missions, you have like very personal stories and of what's happening, and we try to explore on both sides. But yeah, we definitely want to make our characters believable and kind of nuanced, and that takes a lot of iterations. Sometimes we write something, it feels good on paper, we record it with the actor, doesn't work at all, rewrite, and we have some iterations like this. But we allow the production team to be able to do these things to get to the result that we try to achieve.
And with a franchise like Deus Ex in mind or in the back, which is was very successful, and you have an already built-up setting, what was the riskiest decision to put into the new game?
We rebuilt our own engine in the studio to bring this to the new generation of consoles and really produce something that's very rich. So this is always risky when you build technology and build a game. The way we approach it is we want to iterate on things that we're doing well. So we don't want to start from scratch, obviously, in terms of the main pillars of the game. So, but there's always pressure. This is a very beloved franchise, and there's expectations now out of this title because the previous one was very successful. So we take it to heart, and we want to make sure that we respect what a Deus Ex game feels like in terms of the gameplay pillars.
So let's take a look at the screen. What is happening right now? This is still Prague, right?
Actually, this is right after Prague. There was a big explosion and terrorist attack in the train station in Prague, and so the task force that Jensen works for, they suspect that the Augmented Rights Coalition, which is kind of an organization protecting the rights of augmented people, is behind the attack. And the ARC is based in a ghetto that's just outside of Prague. We call it Gotham City. So this is people being segregated there. Their leader, Talos Rucker, is kind of the prime suspect. And as Adam Jensen, you were sent there to go talk to him and basically apprehend him and bring him back to Prague. So what's happening now? We just flew in Prague, in Gotham, and you can see it's really dark, it's messy. People have kind of makeshift apartments and just try to barely survive. And there's a lot of repression. The cops are very aggressive against them. And in this demo, we're not showing the whole social aspect, because when the actual game, you get to talk to a lot of people and really get what they're living through. Here we're just saying the infiltration part. So this leads to the discussion with Talos Rucker.
Okay, so these are basically the same people that we saw in the first part of the game. They were talking about, hey, I need an augmentation, I need a new arm. When I have a new arm, I can work harder, I can be more productive, I can earn more money. This is good for our family, so let's invest into a new arm for me.
Exactly.
And those are normal people like you and me. And now they are outsiders, and they have to live in this ghetto, but they are basically the same people.
Exactly. So, and when players get that, they approach the situation, and do you want to kill everyone inside? Maybe not, right? So that's where kind of the morality comes in, and as a player, how you want to approach the situation, because you know that, yeah, she's there holding a gun and protecting her turf, but she, has kind of maybe a tragic story behind her. So that's really what we try to bring forward with the game, is that think a little bit about what's in front of you and how you approach the gameplay challenges that we throw at the player.
Yeah, so it's really rewarding to deal with the story, to deal with the people, not only to play it as a shooter. This is the easiest way, to play it as an action game.
And you could do it if you want.
Yeah, but you miss so much. If you get into the game and you played the first part, then you have a totally different view on what is happening there, and maybe then you don't want to kill them, and you say, hey, I want to do the stealth thing not because it's my preferred gameplay style, but I want to do it for the characters and for the world, you know.
But also, like we make sure that we do create conflict. We do create situations where players feel like, you know, there's tension, and there's no preferred way to play it. You do whatever you want with our game, and we try to create sort of tension on both sides. So maybe sometimes different factions you wouldn't mind going all guns blazing. Maybe these guys would be more careful, but we don't. There's no like wrong way to play it.
I guess we're at the end. Oh,
yes, the end is near.
The end is near.
The end is here.
Aye.
Okay, so thank you very much, Olivier, for showing us Mankind Divided. I'm very excited, and I hope you have a great time.
Thank you, this was fun, guys.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you very much.
much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Leute, das war, ihr habt es gesehen, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Gleich haben wir noch das Recap für euch, da reden wir darüber, was noch im Laufe des Tages so passiert ist. Ich hoffe, ist es dann das nächste, was kommt? Ich habe es gerade nicht auf dem Schirm. Ihr wisst es besser als ich. Viel Spaß dabei. Tschüss.